Hello and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the world of digital advertising. We're going to dive into the complex, multi-billion-dollar hunt for something called your digital identity.
You know that feeling, right? You look at a pair of sneakers one time, and suddenly those exact same sneakers are basically stalking you across the entire internet, from your social feeds to every website you visit.
Well, it's not in your head. They really are following you. And it's all part of this massive, high-stakes hunt for what the industry calls your digital identity. That's exactly what we're going to break down today. So here's our roadmap. Think of this as a journey. We're going to build this pyramid of value from the bottom up to really get how advertisers see you, from the most basic, anonymous signals all the way to the absolute gold standard.
Okay, so first up, what even is a digital identity? It's easy to think of it as one single thing, but it's not. It's really a whole collection of different signals that, when you piece them all together, create a picture of who you are online.
And each of those pieces is called an identity signal. Just think of it like a digital name tag. It could be a little file in your browser, a cookie, or a special ID for your phone, or even a scrambled, unreadable version of your email. The ad world uses these little tags to tell one anonymous user from another.
But why go to all this trouble? Well, it really boils down to three big things. First, audience targeting. Showing you ads for stuff you might actually want to buy. Second is something called frequency capping, which is just a fancy way of saying they want to avoid annoying you with the same ad 100 times. And finally, measurement. They need to know if the ads they're spending money on are actually working.
Now this brings us to the main idea for this whole explainer, the pyramid of user value. This is such a great way to understand the ad tech world. Because here's the thing, in the eyes of an advertiser, not all users are created equal. The more easily an advertiser can identify you, the more valuable you become, and the higher up this pyramid you climb.
So we have these 5 main layers. Way down at the bottom, you've got users, who are basically ghosts. They're only identified by the content they're looking at. And then, at the very peak, you have the Holy Grail, users who are actually logged in. We're going to start our climb right at the bottom, at the foundation.
Okay, here we are at the base of the pyramid. This is where identity is the weakest, and it's a level that's built on a mix of some pretty old-school tech and some brand-new stuff.
For a modern advertiser, this level is kind of a dark and scary place. It's called contextual targeting. It just means ads are matched to the web page, not the person. So if you're on a car blog, you see car ads. That's it. One of our sources points out this is a big reason why a site with a huge audience like Reddit has had, historically, pretty low ad revenue. It's just really hard to target ads when you have no idea who you're talking to.
For decades, the thing that held all this together was the cookie. Now, it's really important to know there are two types. First-party cookies are actually pretty helpful. They're the good guys. They're set by the site you're on to remember things like your login or what's in your shopping cart. But then you have third-party cookies. They're set by other companies, like ad platforms, to follow you all across the web. These are the controversial ones, the bad cookies that are getting phased out by browsers like Chrome and Safari. So, as those third-party cookies start to crumble, a totally new foundation is being built, and it's built on something called privacy-enhancing technologies, or PETs for short. You can think of PETs as the industry's attempt to have its cake and eat it too, to deliver relevant ads without having to track individual people across different websites.
So how does this actually work in practice? Let's take an example called seller-defined audiences. Imagine a publisher, let's say ESPN.com. They can group their readers into big buckets, like American football fans. Then when it's time to show an ad, the signal they send out to advertisers just says, "Hey, I've got an American football fan here." It doesn't say who you are. The advertiser then bids to show an ad to that group, not to you as an individual. It's a pretty clever workaround that puts privacy first.
All right, time to keep climbing. We're moving up from those bottom layers into territory where things get a bit more personal, because now we can start to identify individual devices.
And that brings us to the device ID. This is a unique identifier tied to your smartphone or your smart TV. These are way more stable than cookies, and they're absolutely essential for tracking what you do inside of apps. But, and this is a huge but, there's a catch. Thanks to things like Apple's App Tracking Transparency Framework, apps now have to pop up and ask for your permission to use this ID, and that one change completely shook up the mobile advertising world.
So you've got all these different signals flying around. Cookies, device IDs, contextual clues.
How does anyone make sense of it all? Well, that's where a DMP, or a data management platform, comes in. The best way to think of it is as a giant digital filing cabinet. It sucks in all these anonymous signals and then neatly organizes them into valuable audience segments, like people who like to travel or households with an income over $100,000.
And this is a super simplified look at what's inside that filing cabinet. A DMP is basically just making a big match table. On one side, you have an anonymous identifier, like your phone's ID. And on the other side, you have a list of codes for the audience segments that ID belongs to. It's a really powerful way to turn a whole mess of raw data into clean audiences that advertisers can actually use.
And you can see just how powerful this is by looking at the results. One case study showed that by combining these kinds of signals, a company was able to give a dermatology clinic a staggering 25-to-1 return on their ad spend. I mean, that kind of performance, that efficiency, is the entire reason this whole system exists.
We've done it. We've climbed all the way to the top of our pyramid. We're at the summit. And this is the most valuable, most sought-after territory in the entire digital ad world: the authenticated, logged-in user.
And I just love this quote from one of our sources because it captures the idea perfectly. It says that just like the real pyramids in Egypt were topped with shimmering gold, the pyramid of user value is capped by these authenticated users. This truly is the new gold standard.
So what makes these users so golden? It all comes down to one key piece of information that you give away freely all the time: your email address. Through a process called hashing, your email gets scrambled into a secure, unreadable code that's still consistent. This code becomes what's known as a deterministic identifier. It's called that because it's based on a confirmed fact, your email, not just an educated guess. And the best part? It works across all your devices.
A new framework called Unified ID 2.0, or UID2, shows us how this all works in a privacy-safe way. It's simple, really. You log into a website with your email. Your email is then instantly converted into a special encrypted token. That anonymous token is what gets sent to advertisers. They can then check if that token matches someone in their target audience. The whole system is designed from the ground up to be built on user consent and privacy.
So now that we've climbed the whole pyramid, what's the big picture here? What's the view from the top? Well, it's clear the future isn't about finding one single thing to replace the third-party cookie. The future is all about managing many identities at once, where a user's value changes depending on which layer of this pyramid they're on at any given moment.
In this new world, your online identity is fragmented, kind of scattered across all these different layers of the pyramid. And that brings us to the final and, I think, most important question. In this post-cookie era, who's really in control? Is it you, through the permissions you grant? Or is it the platforms that build and manage these complex systems? It's definitely something to think about the next time an ad follows you across the internet.